YouTube has been playing tricks on us, but it's live. And then we're going to go on Facebook. And when this lights up, we should be live there too.
Okay.
And there we go. We should be all good to go. Welcome, everybody. It is October the 22nd, 2020. And today we got another great podcast. We're going to talk about being lean, being in optimal body composition. But unlike talking about regular weight loss, we're going to dig a little bit deeper and we're going to discuss the link between inflammation, toxemia, our immune system, our metabolism, and obesity. Because once we understand that link, we actually can come up with a weight loss program that is not only healthy, but also gives us the lasting results that we actually desire, unlike all those popular diets out there. With me today, obviously a very familiar face, Coach Jody Bear. She's a health coach and a nutritional coach with experience for over 40 years, right, Jody?
Yes.
And so she came up with the idea of today's podcast because we have this popular book called Be Lean that I've written not too long ago. And Jody basically wanted to interview me and go in a little bit more depth about why this weight loss program is superior and gives us lasting results. So Jody, you take my role, I'll take your role.
Okay.
And here we go.
Let's do it. So Dr. Mike, you are an expert when it comes to getting down into the root of all disease. I've known that from you for many, many years. So when we talk about the SAD, the Standard American Diet, please clarify.
Standard American Diet, indeed, SAD. I would say, generally speaking, when industrialization and commercialization started, we really got more and more, obviously, commercial man-made foods. And so the majority of the things that we eat and drink today, they are loaded with toxins, preservatives, colorings, sugar, artificial sweeteners, and you name it. So they're loaded with toxins, but on top of that, and that's what most people don't realize, is at the same time, these man-made synthetic foods, they are deprived of the essential nutrients that our body needs. There is no nutritional value. So the vitamin C, the D, the antioxidants, the minerals that our body needs to repair, replace itself, and be in optimal health, they are missing. And that's why this SAD diet, Jody, gives us a lot of trouble. We see that the cells having to replace themselves with incompatible parts, that we get degeneration of the tissues, the cells and the organs, that we get mutation, which obviously leads to disease and cancer. And that's what this bad diet is doing to us, Jody.
It just degenerates and degenerates. So, okay, you're probably out there thinking, SAD, I do that diet. Should we all become health freaks?
Well, health freak is a strong word, right? And I'm not a health freak either, but I try to be conscious about what I eat. So in order to approach that question, Jody, I like to explain health today to our viewers, but from a different perspective. I like to expand on health on a cellular level, which will give you a different perspective on health. So, our body has an estimated 100 to 200 trillion cells. That's far more than the stars in the entire galaxy. We cannot comprehend that number. Okay. Now, each and every one of those cells performs a few million chemical reactions per second. So if you want to know how many chemical reactions there occur in our body at any given second, we simply take your phones out. We simply have to multiply 100 to 200 trillion with a few million. I don't know what that answer is, but next time somebody asks you if you're busy, you simply say, yes, extremely, right? Now, each and every one of those single cells has 100,000 receptors on its outer membrane. And inside the cell, we have RNA, which is the messenger. So the RNA constantly tells the receptors on the outside of the cell, hey, I need this, I need that, I need vitamin C, I need omega-3, I need glutathione, I need whatever it is that the cell needs at that moment to replenish itself, repair itself, rebuild itself, renew itself. However, if due to that standard American diet, that vitamin C and that omega-3 is not available, then the cell is forced to utilize incompatible, less potent nutrients to get the job done. It's like taking an original and making a copy and keep on making copies of copies, and after a few, You can't read it anymore. It's like car parts that are incompatible. It's like computer parts that are incompatible. There's going to be trouble. And it's the same with our cellular health. If we can't get the right essential nutrients that we need, we're going to get in trouble. We're going to get degeneration, which is disease, and we're going to get mutation of those cells, which is cancer. So to answer your question, do we have to be health freaks? No, we don't have to be health freaks. But we do need to make sure that we give our body all the essential nutrients it needs on a daily basis so it can properly repair, renew, rebuild, and replace itself. So if you do some juicing like we do, if you take high quality potent supplements, and if you make sure your body gets all those nutrients on a daily basis, it's okay to get that slice of pizza. It's okay to have a nice meal because your body will use the essential nutrients and stay in optimal health. So we don't need to be a health freak, but we need to be very aware and consume those essential nutrients, Jody.
Be aware of your health. It's all about awareness. I love those 4 R's. What are they again? Renew, rebuild,
replenish,
and
rebuild, renew, repair.
And we're restoring.
Yeah.
And and we're restoring. And I know you talk a lot about toxemia, and you talk about if we want to rebuild and restore, we need to know what is the root cause. Explain toxemia for us.
Yeah, toxemia, in my opinion, is the cause of all disease, no matter what we're talking about. And toxemia simply means toxins in the blood. But to get in a little bit more detail, what it really means is on a daily basis, as part of living, as part of our metabolism, we have anabolic processes, meaning we're building, and we also have catabolic processes, meaning we are, breaking down. And when we break cells down, or as part of our metabolism, we produce toxins in our body as part of normal living. But our body is also able to eliminate those toxins through the skin, the bowels, the kidneys, etc. So at the end, no harm is done because we're eliminating those toxins. But due to our lifestyles today, due to so many factors, if we ingest or are exposed to far more toxins than the body possibly can eliminate, now these toxins accumulate in the body, and that's really what toxemia is. Now, to take a step back, where do these toxins come from? Well, first of all, we talked already about our SAD, our standard American diet, our man-made synthetic foods that are loaded with colorings, preservatives, sugar, sweeteners, and stuff like that. Our over-the-counter and prescription drugs, those are major toxins to our human cells and tissues. Our emotions and our daily stresses, they cause the production of a lot of toxins in our body also. And then last but not least, we don't live in pristine areas anymore. We live in cities and towns, so we are exposed to many industrial pollutants. We are exposed to, for example, the chlorine fumes when we take a shower, the exhausts fumes of the cars, and everything that's out there. So all that together, we ingest and are exposed to far more toxins than our body can eliminate, and that causes toxemia. Now, this toxemia, or this accumulation of toxins in our blood and our body, causes 2 major things. Has been proven over and over again. Number 1, it causes free radical damage. And I know you guys heard about free radicals. I'm not going to go into detail there, but those free radicals are basically, they're healthy atoms that are floating around. And when a toxin comes by, it steals an electron, from that free radical, and an electron from that healthy atom. And now that healthy atom becomes unstable. And that unstable molecule is called a free radical, and it's going to cause havoc on a cellular level, right? Now, we also know that there are solutions for those free radicals, and they're called antioxidants from our fruits and our vegetables, because antioxidants are able to donate an electron to that free radical to make it stable again, without the antioxidants itself becoming unstable. So that's the key to antioxidants. But the second thing that we are doing, or that the toxemia is causing, besides free radical damage and oxidative stress, is systemic inflammation. Yes. And everybody heard about systemic inflammation, because even according to conventional Western medicine, over 98% of all disease is correlated or directly related to the systemic inflammation. And what is this systemic inflammation? It means we have these excess toxins that we cannot eliminate. So the body needs to do something. So it's in a state of emergency. And it's going to either store some of those toxins in our fat cells. We'll talk about it later because it's a part of the cause of obesity and being overweight. It's going to store those because it can't eliminate those toxins. So it's going to store them in the fat cells. It's going to encapsulate them and neutralize them. And that's when we end up with cysts and tumors, etc. Okay. And then others will still be floating around. So we're in this constant chronic systemic inflammation state of emergency, which basically, weakens our immune system, etc., etc. So it is this toxemia that causes this systemic inflammation. And if we can control that systemic inflammation, which is responsible for 98% of all disease, guess what? We can control our body weight and we can be healthy and in optimal health without having to worry about being sick or getting a degenerative disease or cancer. And it sounds difficult, but if you have been listening, in order to now reduce that toxemia, there's two things we need to do. Number one, we need to try to reduce the intake or ingestion of toxins, and simultaneously increase the nutrients that are capable of fighting free radical damage and systemic inflammation. And if we do that, then there is no risk for disease, and we'll stay healthy and drastically reduce risk of disease and cancer. So that's what toxemia is, and it's an easy way of explaining where disease comes from and how easy we actually could control it if we put in the effort and we acquire the knowledge to do so.
And people that are out here listening, you've got the standard American diet, the SAD diet. Toxemia is just rampant. Then you look at inflammation. Inflammation, guess what? Then we're getting to the crux of our book, obesity. How can the link between inflammation and obesity?
So we just talked about toxemia causing inflammation causing all disease, right? So now we are in a constant state of emergency. And first of all, our immune system is working to try to solve the problem. But if it's chronic, our immune system weakens. If our immune system weakens and we have a systemic inflammation, our metabolism slows down too. If our metabolism suffers and slows down, instead of metabolizing and burning fat, our body is forced to store the fat. And so now the size, but also the number of fat cells or adipocytes in our body increases. So now we're gaining weight, okay? So that's how inflammation is correlated to gaining weight and being obese. It slows down our metabolism because it's preoccupied with putting out the fires. Now there's something more happening, because once our fat cells increase in size and number, our fat cells are not just storage places, they also release proteins. And so when we are gaining weight, our fat cells release a pro-inflammatory protein called cytokines. And I'm sure you heard about cytokines before. So those cytokines are released by our fat cells, and cytokines cause more inflammation. So now we have this vicious perpetuating cycle of more and more inflammation. And Jody, just like everybody listening, we know that doctors always say if you are obese, if you're overweight, you're at risk or a greater risk for all other diseases, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, autoimmune diseases. And why is that? It's easily explained, because when you're overweight, you're producing even more inflammation, which puts you at a higher risk of disease. That's how it all basically comes together.
So this is on one side. Now we've got the Be Lean difference. Because how? And explain how our Be Lean program is different than what's on the market there.
Well, there's many differences, but to start off with, most popular diets and weight loss programs on the market, they are all what we call low calorie diets. What they're trying to do is make sure that you take in less calories on a daily basis than your body really needs. So they put you in a starvation mode, and obviously your body's going to burn fat. You're going to lose water weight, probably even some muscle weight, which is not good, but you are going to lose weight. The problem with those diets, as everybody has experienced in their lifetime, is that once you stop those diets and you suffer through them because you're starving, you're going to regain that weight, right? And that's why they call them yo-yo diets. So that's the first thing. Our body, our program is not based on low calories. No. It's based on what you eat, and it's based on, again, resetting metabolism. Most diets speed up metabolism. Absolutely. To burn those fat cells. We're going to reset your metabolism. We'll talk about the diet in itself a little bit later. The other component basically is that, again, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. We have a you're the main coach. We have a health coach that guides you through the program, and based on your medical history and things like that, we will customize the program. We do laboratory testing before and after.
Absolutely.
Because we want to make sure that we reduce that inflammation. If you're diabetic, that we reduce that A1C. So basically, by reducing that inflammation and getting you healthier, your body now is allowed and able to burn that toxic fat. So we basically turn it around, Jody. In the Be Lean program, we're just going to make you healthier. And as a result of that, you're going to shed those extra pounds because we're releasing those toxins and we are losing those, that excess weight as a result of being healthy, not the other way around. Most of the popular diets out there, as I said, are low-calorie diets, but they always focus on eating more of one food group, like Atkins and its proteins, and eliminating another food group. And that's always has detrimental effects in the long term on your health. So this is not a program like that. And that's why it's much different than any other program.
It to me, I just want to reemphasize one thing you said, resetting the metabolism. As we age, being 66, I can say this, that going ahead and boosting your metabolism it just raises havoc on your adrenals. You have adrenal exhaustion. What are you going to do? I see it in women that are menopausal, postmenopausal. This is where we reset and you have a brand new a set of cells and bodies. So it's things that are very, very busy. And why do we go ahead and do this laboratory testing? You can just address that very
Yeah, sure. We like to do, it's not mandatory, but we really like to prove that this, 63-day program really makes you healthier. So we suggest you go to get a script and get some blood work done. We obviously check your systemic inflammation. We do that with CRP, C-reactive protein, which is a great indicator on how bad that inflammation in your body is. After our weight loss program, 63 days, we want you to go again, and then we can see how drastically that CRP dropped, meaning less inflammation, which then allows your body to burn that fat, but also be much healthier, feel the energy, not being fatigued, being vital. And that's what really it's all about. To me, it's not about weight loss, but if we can get you in a healthier mode and in a healthier lifestyle, you're automatically going to shed those pounds anyways.
Energy, vitality, longevity. Just got to throw in, we're going to be getting into testimonials here in a bit, but one of our clients, her A1Cs were 12.2. After being on the program for 60 days, 6.1.
Yeah.
Her doctor called me.
That's half, yeah.
Yes, her doctor called me, general practitioner, and he said, can I get more information on this program? That's why we're different. And I know that there's been a lot of ketogenic craze out there, but the ketogenic diet, this is different than a basic ketogenic diet. Please explain that to our listeners.
Yeah, we do have a nutrition plan. Obviously, diet is kind of a word that nobody likes to hear, so I like to call it nutrition plan. But our nutrition plan at the end also resets the metabolism and puts you in ketogenesis, right? But when you look at a general ketogenic diet, what they want you to do is eat a lot more fat and protein and lose the carbs in order to change and reset, your fuel or your burning fuel from a carb system to a fat system. And so the purpose is to use fat as a fuel, which is great, but there's different ways to get there. And the first way, which is very popular, which I personally do not like, is consume all those fatty meats. My next book, which will be out in December, is called Protein Paradox, and it will talk about proteins and meats, etc. But even if you want to go to the CDC website and look under the class 1 carcinogens, besides asbestos and tobacco, you will find processed meats. Meat is just a very carcinogenic, food group that humans really don't need. And I don't want to expand on that today, but from a health point of view, if we're going to consume a lot of animal fat, guess what we're doing? We're increasing that cholesterol. We're increasing the triglycerides. We're increasing the risk of a stroke. We're increasing the risk of cardiovascular disease. So even though eating a lot of meat may put you in ketosis, right? It's certainly not a healthy way of doing it, and you're increasing the risk of all those, cardiovascular disease and those types of things. So I don't think that's the right way to get into ketosis. Another way to get into ketosis is you could say, well, I'm going to eat a lot of fat, but from Mother Nature, avocados and olives and healthy oils, and maybe supplement with oils and do it the healthy way. And that would work too. And that would be the best way of doing it. However, in our diet, we take it one step further. During phase 2, which is about
60 days.
60 days in our diet, we tell you not to eat any fat. If it's meat, it's going to be a lean chicken breast. We're going to refrain from healthy fat like avocados and olive oil and stuff like that too. Why do we do that? Because your body needs fat to burn, right? And if there's no bad fat or good fat, it needs to use what? The stored fat in your fat cells. So that's why this is such an effective program. Our average person loses 40 pounds in those 63 days. And all we're losing is toxic fat. We're not losing water weight. We're not losing muscle weight. We're losing this toxic fat. And so this way, we also get into that ketosis that we want to achieve, because that's what's resetting metabolism from carbohydrates as a fuel to fat as a fuel. And that's the big difference between our program and all the other programs out there.
Using your body to be a well-oiled machine. And people use exercise that way too. However, on this program, our exercise is reduced. Please explain why.
Yes, during the program, you really don't need to exercise if you don't want to. The reason for that is, we all know that when you want to lose weight, 80 to 90% of your effort should be on diet. And only 10-20% will be helpful as exercise, burning more calories, right? And again, our program really doesn't focus on calories. It focuses on resetting metabolism and eating the right foods. But having said that, if you never exercised or you're not good in exercise, it would be helpful to initiate some exercise and learn to exercise. Because when exercise becomes really important, in my opinion, is after you lost that weight and now you want to maintain that weight, you need to be active. Now, exercise is vital. We all know that. But exercise does not necessarily mean you have to go to the gym and pump weights. It doesn't mean you have to involve or engage yourself in organized sport. Exercise, Jody, is movement. We can't just sit still all day, because movement means circulation and oxygenation. And that's what makes everything going in our body. Like you said, a well-oiled machine. So we need to move. So when people say exercise, people get scared. They see weights, they see sweat. It's not necessary. You just need to move. Whether that's walking the dog, playing with the grandkids, going for a beach walk, taking dancing lessons, it doesn't matter. We need to start moving, and that will burn those calories too, okay? So we don't have an intense exercise component to the weight loss program, but we know that once you lost the weight and you're at optimal body composition, we want to incorporate regular exercise to keep that weight off. And again, our immune system, our optimal health cannot exist without movement.
And exercise, if it's under 30 minutes, it's optimal, because what we found with this program, too much exercise will create toxins in the liver, correct?
And inflammation, right? So because, we always look up to those big athletes and people that perform at high level. And I've been trying to do that a few times. I'm going to do it one more time. I started training again, but performing at high intensity level, there's nothing healthy about it. Your body produces way too much free radicals. And if you know that, it's okay. Then you have to counteract with even more antioxidants. But it's basically a catabolic process. In other words, it breaks your body down and you got to keep rebuilding it. So it speeds up the aging process. It's not healthy for you unless you know how to counteract those damaging effects, and unless you don't do it for the rest of your life, right? But exercise or movement, that's how we can get in optimal health.
And movement and thinking about, if you do exercise too much, you get a plateau. Every diet has a plateau. You may get a plateau with this. And I can know that with the Be Lean program, we've got a way to break that plateau. Please explain.
Yes, I mean, on a lot of those popular diets, again, people start losing weight in the beginning, and then suddenly, by continuing to do the same thing, they don't shed more pounds. And that's what we call a plateau. We're stagnant, right? And so it's important that in a good weight loss program that we do have a health coach available 24/7, that when you stop losing that weight, they can identify. Yes, Jody, that's you. We can identify what's causing that plateau. And often it's obviously they're not following the instructions correctly. one of the major instructions that we have is enough hydration. We need to drink a lot of water during those 60 days. Why?
100 ounces.
Because we are forcing our body to release the toxins from the fat cells, and we want to eliminate those toxins, right? We talked about the toxin elimination and toxemia. So, drinking enough water will help eliminate those toxins from the body so they don't cause any harm once we release them, because they may have been stored there for decades.
Yes.
Who knows? So we need to drink a lot of water. Sometimes there's more underlying things going on that prevent us from losing weight. And one of the things we'll talk about in a little bit, I assume, is hormones. If our body is in a hormonal imbalance, it may prevent us from losing weight. Sometimes it's heavy metal toxicities. So once we reach that plateau, sometimes there's some easy tips that your coach can give you that will get you back on losing weight. And if that doesn't help, we may have to do some more laboratory testing, check those hormones, check for heavy toxic metals, something that is interfering with your body losing that weight. And that's why we're here for you, to make sure that we don't hit that plateau, or at least overcome it and continue to lose that toxic fat.
I've never been with a program, Dr. Mike. I've just got to say, since we've been doing this since April together, going ahead and doing the plateau, it's green apples, but under the supervision of a physician, of a health coach, because that will get into the gallbladder and make it wake up. That's just right. Like we want to make those hormones wake up. So just talk about the correlation between hormones and weight gain, would you please?
Yeah, hormones we could do a whole session on hormones for sure, but hormones are so important in our body. They are involved in almost every chemical function that there is. But as we get older, our hormone levels, especially testosterone, etc., they reduce. All right. Number one. Number two, a lot of people get surgeries, hysterectomies, which messes up our hormones. And then we got our environmental toxins and pollutants and the food we eat. A lot of our food is estrogen laden. It's loaded with estrogen, which bring again the hormones out of balance. So let's talk about a few of the hormones, right? Estrogen. A lot of men and women are estrogen dominant. In other words, there's too much estrogen in our body compared to its counterpart hormones, which are testosterone and progesterone. And when that happens, we retain water. Okay, so now there's water retention. We gain weight because our metabolism slows down. Okay, and so estrogen is one of those things. Estrogen causes a lot more severe things than gaining weight. It can cause cancer, degenerative disease, obviously, and a lot of autoimmune diseases also. So we got to make sure our estrogen is not too high compared to our other hormones. We also have testosterone, obviously. Testosterone is very important to maintain muscle mass. And when you look at people that get older and older, guess what happens with their muscle? It's getting wasted. They don't have that muscle mass anymore. And a lot of that has to do not necessarily with being inactive, but with having lower and lower levels of testosterone. And so you don't have to be old though, because if your testosterone is low, your muscle mass is not managed properly. And at the same time, muscle mass, as we all know, if you have more muscles, you have a higher metabolism. Athletes have a higher metabolism because they have lean muscle mass. So if you have low testosterone, then you have lower muscle mass, which also means lower metabolism. And here we go again. If our metabolism is low, it cannot do all the work it's supposed to do. And so instead of burning that fat, it's going to store that fat. So that's where your testosterone comes in. We have cortisol, our stress hormone. When our cortisol and our stress levels are too high, high cortisol levels, yes, make you gain weight, even get you syndromes like Cushing's syndrome, which is, gaining weight in the face and the abdomen and things like that. Back to testosterone. Testosterone is not only responsible for the lean muscle mass, but is also responsible for where the location of the deposit of that fat. And so that's abdominal or stomach fat. And abdominal and stomach fat doesn't look pleasing, but it also puts you at risk for cardiovascular disease and all those other types of diseases. So that's how those hormones play an important role. So when we test you for hormones and they're unbalanced, or testosterone's low or estrogen is high, we use bioidentical hormones to restore that balance. And once we do that, suddenly your metabolism comes back up, just like with that inflammation. And suddenly, as a adverse reaction, you start losing that toxic fat. So many times we have to look at hormones also in order to really get optimal results.
You see, to me, it's not difficult, but it's complex from the standpoint of getting it just right. It's the science of weight management, for real, for real. And the other science in this is behavior modification. Behavior modification, because I've always said weight loss is a transformation, and guess what? It's an inside job. So would you just explain that a little bit?
Yes, transformation is the key word here, right? We're all addicted, including myself, to certain things. In the mainstream, we call alcohol addiction. We talk about drug addiction, but our biggest addiction for all humans on this planet is food. It's not recognized as such, but the food producers do a great job in loading it with sugars and all kinds of things that we start craving. And so we get addicted to food and we get into certain habits. And so when we want to transform ourselves, when we want to lose weight, or when we want to go from ill health to optimal health, we need to turn bad or poor lifestyle habits into good ones. And in order to do that, we need help again from a good coach, because we need to make that transformation. And what we use there is behavior modification or behavior modification techniques. So in short, there's three great components, or three components that need to be in place in order to make that happen. Number one, we need to have the knowledge. That also means we need to acknowledge that we are overweight, or we need to acknowledge that we are not in great health, right? That's the first thing, acknowledge, and want to do something about it. Number two, then we need to acquire the skills in order to make the transformation. And that's where we as coaches come in, to tell them what to do. And in this case, there will be behavior modification techniques to go transform us from certain bad habits into good habits. And the third part of success is willingness. We can't teach you that. You need to be ready to make this transformation and say, look, it's time for me to turn my health around. It's time for me to lose that excess weight and get energy and vital again and live longer, because I want to see my grandkids go up and get married, etc., etc. That's up to you. If you're willing, we can help you. If you're not willing, it would be a waste of everybody's time, right, Jody? Right. So knowledge, skill, and willingness. Now, to give you a few examples of these behavior modification techniques, there's so many. In the book, there's probably 100.
Yes.
I took some time there. But for example, you have breakfast, which, by the way, is not the most important meal in the day, but that's another discussion. But let's say you have breakfast and you go to work and somebody brought in donuts, and you smell the donuts and you go, into the room. You probably take one and eat one because it smells good. And even though you're not hungry, you have an appetite for them, right? So it's a bad habit coming to work and having another snack even though you had breakfast. So we need to change that. And we can do that with different techniques. First of all, make you aware that you are not hungry, and ask yourself when you see the donuts, am I hungry? And answer no, well, then don't take one, right? Another example is somebody comes home from work, somebody's cooking a meal, but you're hungry and you can't wait. So you open the cabinet and you have a snack, even though dinner's cooking. And that's a habit. All of us have that habit, right? So what we're going to do is we can, for example, substitute going to the pantry and having a snack or a cookie or whatever. We can substitute it with an activity. For example, while she's cooking, why don't you let the dogs out? Or while she's cooking, go to your office and check your email so you don't have to do it later. Substitute a bad habit with a healthy activity, all right? Or she's a great cook and you finish your plate and you're full, but guess what? It's so damn good, I want more.
Yes.
So you take seconds, right? So instead of putting the pots on the table and serving it, what we could do is tell her, like, when you cook, serve everybody a plate and freeze the rest already before everybody comes and have that meal, so there is no more, right? And that's just 3 simple examples, and there's so many. But Jody will help you, and any other coach will help you. It's okay, this is a bad habit. How do we get it to a good habit? How does it happen in your house? What's going on in your lifestyle? And then we'll come up with a perfect transition to go to the bad habit, to the good habit. Now, it's not difficult. Usually it only takes a few times to do that. And each time you avoid the bad habit and get into a good habit, that good habit now becomes more of a habit. And before you know it, those good habits become your addictions.
Yes.
And it's true, like we're addicted to juicing.
Yes.
I cannot be without my green juice every day. I have to make it.
In our mason jar.
In our mason jars. That's why we have mason jars, because we juice so much. So that's behavior modification, is get rid of those bad habits and slowly transform them one by one. We don't have to do it all overnight into good habits. And that's where behavior modification techniques come in, Jody.
Because transformation is an inside job. And you asked me to bring a few testimonials just since we begun this Be Lean program, and they're pretty profound. I can truthfully say that it's been a great vantage point of going ahead and having this blood work done, because people look at their blood work kind of like facts. It's your body.
It's objective.
It's objective. This is what my blood work was at. This is what it did. Oh my goodness, this is why this doctor called me. That's never happened, Dr. Mike. And so, is it all right if I just go through a few of these?
I mean, Jody, for those who don't know, has been doing this, have been a health and nutritional coach. She started with her mom who was suffering from cancer. Long story short, she's been involved helping people for over 40 years now. And the last few decades, I would say you have helped thousands of people losing weight.
Yes.
With over 500,000 pounds of toxic fat loss. That's 500,000 pounds.
Yes.
And so now we're introducing people to this healthier approach, and she already has great testimonials. So go ahead, share a few with me.
I will. And Dr. Mike, thank you for mentioning this, because it's 500,000 pounds in 8 years since I went back into private practice. Now I've been calibrating in the Be Lean program since April. We are well over and coming up to 8,000 pounds just in this program.
It's a big elephant in the room that's gone, huh?
Big elephant in the room. So Debbie is the first client that at my age, in her late 60s, autoimmune disease, had her thyroid removed. Okay, had her thyroid removed. So she's lost 25 pounds in the program, even with no thyroid. This metabolism reset, it worked. Wasn't white collar syndrome. Her blood pressure was always through the roof. 140s, 150s, not good when you're in your mid to late 60s. Now her blood pressure is lower, 25 pounds lost, and she has vitality, energy, vitality, longevity. Elise, on the flip side, here, she and her husband, they'd been infertile for several years. They've been trying to have a baby. And just through going with this program, lost maybe 10 pounds, didn't have a lot of weight to lose, Dr. Mike. However, the systemic inflammation left her body, and guess what? Mila is now a baby girl in their life. They started their family.
Wow.
Inflammation.
What a
leaves.
story.
Yeah. Inflammation leaves. Fertility is here. Just with no hormones, nothing but just good, healthy nutrition. Give the body what it needs, and
when you take the
fate.
daily emergency situations away, the body can focus on what it's supposed to do once more.
It just heals itself. We're a miracle making machine. Melanie, another client my age, hit a plateau. She lost 72 pounds, wanted to lose her last 20, and just couldn't do it. Tried every plateaution, including exercising more, just toxified her liver, didn't work. Went on the program, dropped that 20 in a month.
Yeah.
Is happier than she's ever been, and said that she feels like she's healthy. You see, you can do a diet, but you don't feel healthy.
There's a big difference.
Because that's why they call it diet. That's why we don't like it, because you're dying for it. What is the it? All right. Mike, another client, ex-football player, typical. He keeps exercising. If you went ahead and kept up your eating program that you did when you were a real competitive athlete, it would build up. That's what happened with Mike. Mike went ahead and came to me, lost 35 pounds, but in the meantime, had a blood clotting issue.
Ooh, yeah.
Had a blood clotting issue. Guess what? Because this will reset your metabolism along with, he had high blood pressure, what have you, changed his diet from the meat that was causing the gout, got that dead flesh out there that you're going to cook that you talk so much about.
Cause a lot of uric acid. That's where gout comes from, red meat.
And went into mostly a plant-based diet, blood clotting issue, no medication, and lost his 35 pounds. And is looking strong with his muscles. Now we've got Rob. He's also known as Santa. He's in the book, by the way. You'll know him because he has a white beard.
He has a white beard. He doesn't have to put it on, huh?
No, right. He has a white beard. And when I met him, he's a plumber by trade. And he was under our sink doing some work. And he was with his air, he was just short of breath. And I'm going, I could help you with that. That's what I say. I'm not going to condemn you about your weight loss, nothing. I can help you with that. Dr. Mike and I can help you with this. And he came, he said, you really can? He said, sure. Guess what? 40 pounds lost this year for Christmas. He's going to have to use a pillow.
To be Santa.
To be Santa, he's still going to look the part. He's got his own white beard, but he's got a synthetic pillow from
I've seen his pictures, but I don't know him.
Yes, absolutely. So then we've got Alan. And you'll get to meet Alan soon when we're over this COVID and we're back to really traveling as well. Alan was an ex-military soldier. Guess what? He had digestion issues, something fierce, something he picked up in Iraq. That
he came home with it.
Yeah, he came home with it. It was some microbial, maybe MRSA. It was just identified as no diagnosis. Why do you need a diagnosis? As I said,
just fix it.
Yeah, situation undisclosed. Well, that's good enough for me. So we went in, reduced his stress. Actually, I think he increased his stress because he's a newlywed.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's good. We replaced talking about behavior modification, the old stress with good stress. He's now happily married, and he lost 24 pounds in 6 weeks. And guess what happened to his digestion? Through this plateau, using the apples, figuring out how to get through, I believe it was a situation with his gallbladder. That's just my personal intuitive feeling. Guess what? He looks, in the picture in the book, Mike, he looks 10 years younger. Just from 24 pounds, because your skin, what do we have? 90% is our skin, the largest organ on our body. It will show up in your countenance. It certainly has.
Your complexion, yes.
Yes, with Alan. Now, this one, Nick and Lisa. Gosh, the couple, they did it together. Nick says he's got more energy. He looks younger, and after he and Lisa got to their maintenance weight, guess what? They're still doing the program, aren't they?
Yeah.
Why don't you explain?
I actually saw them yesterday.
Oh, wonderful.
They came in from Oviedo. We all went to dinner, and because he was a business associate of mine, and so when we started the program in the beginning, he was one of the first one. He and his wife wanted to get on the program because we did it in our office, and it worked very well for them, for both of them. And so, I mean, that's been a year at least, and so they maintained it because they feel better, about themselves. They don't get tired when they come back from work. They have a lot more energy. They have a few kids to take care of. So because of how they feel, they don't want to go back to where they were, sluggish and overweight. We don't even have to motivate them. The only thing that we told them is a maintenance program, because we do have a maintenance program, some ways on how to keep that weight off. And we're not going to get into ketogenic diet again, but it's important that you don't stay in ketosis all the time either.
Correct.
So you have to have your cheating days. You got to come out of ketosis and enjoy yourself with some carbs and some good food, and then get back into it. And so he was actually again yesterday explaining how good they feel by doing this, both of them together. So it really is a life changer.
They're enjoying themselves, they're enjoying their family. And yes, we have a way of switching it up. Just like speaking of our newlyweds, speaking of, I know when I met my husband, I made sure that I kept him guessing. And that's what we do with your body. We keep your body guessing so you stay in a great metabolism until that metabolism starts, or you catch your husband, or in your case, you catch your woman. All right. So I've got two last rock stars here, and I'm so grateful to be able to work with them. Reverend James is a minister in Central Florida. He started out as 467.
Wow.
467. He's a big guy. He's your age, but your size? Can you imagine your age? He's 50. What happened when he hit 50? You're almost there, but we won't put you right there. But what happened? He had a heart attack, quadruple bypass, and a pacemaker. It changed his life. Why? He said, post bypass, I've got to change. I
wake up call.
Wake up call. So we hope it's not that drastic for y'all, because it was the inflammation which turned into the obesity. He started eating clean and green, and now when we got through, and I was responsible, and I've had the great honor of helping him with his last 100. He said he's never been able to step on a regular scale. He's 220. He's sitting here now. His wife loves this part because the last 100 allowed him to not snore, so she can sleep as well. Because
so went from 400 something to 220. He lost more than half of his weight.
Yes,
he lost me.
Yes.
Yeah.
He lost Dr.
me.
Mike.
Okay.
Can you even imagine? He's the lowest weight that he has been since 7th grade.
Mhm.
And so is Carol, our poster child. She went from 362. She's my height. She's 5'4". 362 to 169. She never knew that she could see that number.
Wow.
She had gone through 29 diets. And I met her after she had her gastric bypass. Guess what happened with that? Several $1,000 later. And guess what? Her weight started going.
Anyways, yeah.
Gaining it back because you haven't gotten to the root cause of what you're talking about, toxemia.
Those are risky procedures anyway. I talk about those in the book too.
Like crazy. Why would you want to spend the money and put your life at risk? And I said, I can help you. And she reminded me yesterday when we got together for a cup of coffee, she said, you didn't condemn me about your weight. If you're out there, my final word is this. If you're out there and you think, oh, can you help me? I'm so ashamed about the weight there's no shame. Just start with the day. If you're scale and you get on it and the scale says with the number OMG, it's okay. To start today because we can help you. We know it works. And myself, I've just got to throw this in. But before I do this, she said when she went on the Be Lean program, 29 diets, she's pretty much of an expert. She said it was the easiest thing she'd ever done because it's fast, 40 pounds in 63 days. It's effective because you see results. We're measuring it.
And there's no starving involved either.
No. You can go to the restaurant and it's just simple. That's what she said. She was an essential worker during the COVID time and working nights and sleeping days. It still worked for her. Yeah. And during COVID, I've got to admit, I found the COVID-15. All right. Didn't know it. At least it wasn't the COVID-19. All right. I think it was the pajamas I was in all day. And I'm going, I'm just going to try it for myself. I can truthfully say that I'm a product of this product. I received a great amount of energy, but it wasn't like nervous energy. It was just that vitality. And guess what? It was easy to do. It wasn't difficult to do. There is some intermittent fasting. And why? Because we know if we trick your body, it will reset your metabolism. With the intermittent fasting, we've already said that no starving, no calorie counting. So you don't have to measure everything. Just look at the palm. Portion control, have more plate than food.
Sure.
And then you don't have to isolate yourself because I'm over the isolation, aren't you?
Oh, we all.
Oh, and trick your body continuing in the maintenance program. Like you're going to trick that woman who's going to be smart enough to want you and Bob Bear, who is smart enough to want me. We're going to trick them so they come our way. And I think more than anything, I've known you for over 20 years. You're a consummate professional. You are a knowledge like Wikipedia. All right. As a professional, you're here. I'm here. 500,000 pounds, 40 years. We are here to take you on this journey because transformation is an inside job. I was thinking about this program as I was coming over here and I wrote down because Dr. Mike, in your autobiography, you say, I came here with $400 and a backpack and just a dream of making a difference. This is what you've done with your bevy of books. This is what you've done with the Be Lean book, the COVID book on how to make yourself bulletproof in this situation, because you have made a difference. You're making a difference, but getting this knowledge out here because it just oozes out of your body. And myself, this is my motto. It's perseverance, it's consistency, it's self-control, which gives you integrity with yourself, and then you have self-love. 500,000 pounds, guess what? The next one can be yours. So wrap it up, Mike.
Well, I agree with all that, of course. And the listeners may think, oh my God, they talked about all these hormones and behavior modification and doing this and doing that. It may be a lot of information overload, but why don't you finish up with saying why it is so easy? Because we have this app. And I think that's important because you don't have to worry about following a complicated program, because what does the app do?
Everything.
Yeah.
You plug it in the day before. Yes, the app is key. You wouldn't even need me. You wouldn't even need my.
The app tells you step by step. Today we're gonna take these, drops. We're gonna eat this. Here's some meal plans for you. So as long as you follow your app, it tells you what to do, right?
And you can go ahead and if you're one of these, you're going to be on the road, you can go ahead for the week, make your meals all in 1 week. You can go ahead and put your drops that you're going to take to recalibrate and get your daily nutrition. Put that as an alert. If you get up at 8, you get up at 2, and you go to bed at 10.
Yeah.
It's right there. It will tell you step by step what to do, what you're going to eat. And the only thing it says is it doesn't tell you who you're going to do it with, but everything is there. The recipes are easy. They're very tasty, and you can go ahead and meal plan for the week. So the app is key. So you've got professionals, you've got people that are there by your side. You've got a plan that has been working now. We'll be up to 10,000 pounds probably in this week. And you've got the book to go by and an app that is as easy as recalibrate.
Yeah, I wanted to bring in the app because that way you don't have to worry about anything. You follow the app. If you have a question, you call your coach. If not, you follow the app, right? That's how easy it is. The last thing maybe I want to discuss, and women gonna like this. Actually, it's not good news for women, but when you go on a regular diet, those yo-yo diets, popular diets, and you've probably not heard this, but I just was thinking about it, right? When you go on those diets, it's much harder for women to lose the weight because we're speeding up metabolism. And why is that? A fat cell has 2 types of receptors: alpha receptors, which store fat, and beta receptors, which burn fat, right? Now, women, just constitutionally, because they're women, women's fat cells, man is ratio 1:1, 1 alpha to 1 beta receptor. In women's fat cells around the waist and the hips, it's 1:7. So they have only 1 beta receptors which burn fat and 7 receptors that store fat. Why is that? Because we are human beings and we're not supposed to live in this great society. We were hunters and we lived in, in the open, and we were nomads and we had to kill our prey and things like that, right? So think back there. So the reason why women have a lot more fat cells and they are inclined to store fat is because when they're pregnant, to keep the baby warm in the harsh winters. That's why women are programmed that way. So they have a lot more receptors to store fat. So when you go on a regular weight loss program, it's much harder for the women to lose the fat because they only have 1 beta, which burns the fat, to 7 alpha, and nobody's focusing on inhibiting those alpha receptors which store the fat, right? But on our weight loss program, it doesn't matter because we're not speeding up that metabolism. We are resetting it. We're getting your hormones level in place so it doesn't slow down your metabolism. We're getting your inflammation down so we don't have to worry about our body storing fat because we are metabolizing it. So that's a big difference too. So especially for the women, because we're talking about couples, especially for women that do a weight loss program with their significant other, he loses the weight and you're there and you get very frustrated. It's because you are on a yo-yo diet. You're trying to stimulate those beta receptors and you're not in great favor there because you got a lot more alpha receptors. When you reset your metabolism, it doesn't matter.
Beautiful, beautiful. And with this, the fat cells, I just thought of somebody that isn't on the sheet. She's a flight attendant up in Chicago. Now, she had a situation that she had back surgery. She had surgery, inflammation back there, all right? And menopausal. So all of these things were adding up. She said, okay, I'm going to give it a try, but I'm not convinced it's going to work. I said, well, if you're not convinced, we won't do it because if you're willing, we can make you capable.
Yeah, sure.
If you can follow the app and you've got a desire to change, we can make this work. And she is a glowing example. I'm so glad that you said this because I've seen once her hormones this last week, she went and got bioidentical hormones to get this because she had a lot of fat cells. Plus she's an ethnic of an ethnic extraction that they sometimes have more fat cells than another. It's just the way the genetics are encoded. And she's coming around beautifully. And she broke that plateau between the hormones and I explained this. I said, look at it in the book. And I said, and the other thing was just go ahead and know that you can do the apples, the hormones, and read the book. And Dr. Mike, I know that we've got something here that no one else has because it's affordable. It's affordable. Anybody that listens to this program, just get back to either Dr. Mike or myself. My My number is 800-820-0584, and we will give you $100 off the program, and it is 1/10 of what you would do with that bariatric surgery that does havoc on your system. So I just wanted to give this to our listening audience. What a delight. I don't care if I come back here on an even more frequent basis to be around you, your knowledge. I always learn something new. So go
So
ahead and say
if you
something
want to
about
learn
the
a little
book.
bit more, this is obviously the book Be Lean. Jody has many of copies, so you can always contact her. You can get it from my website, mikevantielen.com or mvtonline.com. Go to the About page and then click Other. All my books are there. You can get it from there. Very easy to read little book. Basically covers everything we kind of covered today, but obviously in a lot more detail. The testimonials are in there. If you want to read a little bit more about the program and contact Jody by email, just go to health4life.fit. Health4life.fit. On that page, you can buy the book, you can read the bullet points of the program, and you can send questions or contact Jody directly from that page. Health4life.fit. Any closing statement, Jody?
We want health for life, or health
Freedom. Always choose health freedom. Thanks for listening in, and hopefully we can help you out.
Did it work? I think it worked.